Okay, if I start going delirious, it's only because I've not had enough sleep today.
Don't worry, I don't listen.
Sorry, who are you? Right.
This is the Tyre Kickers. Classic car chat with Max and Matt.
Set your nonsense filter to on because we're back with another dose of classic car chat.
Yes, it's episode 33, and this time we're staring at a gorgeous Swede. But is the Volvo P1800 simply all show and no go?
The Tyre Kickers.
Also ahead, we're going back to the 80s to see how much cool cars actually cost. For the good stuff, how much gold did you have to Spandau?
Back in the present day, I've been let out on day release to go to the auctions. So let's check out 4 classic lots and see how the gavel travelled.
All of that plus your comments and corrections about high milers, YouTubers and underpowered cruisers. So let's drop a gear and disappear. It's episode 33 of the Tyre Kickers.
Now, we love you coming up with ideas for the show, mainly as it saves us the effort. So hats off to listener Benjamin Maltby. Off the back of the 30th episode, he suggested we go back 30 or 40 years to see what the prices of pin-up classics were like back then. Good idea. So we're going to go back 40 years to the time of fleck trousers, white socks, grey slip-ons, 1985. Remember that?
Remember it? I was wearing it. I had a pair of flecks. I had the grey slip-ons as well, and the white socks. That's part
You're
of them.
still wearing them though. That's the problem, isn't it?
I wouldn't fit in them anymore. I think mine came from Foster's. Do you remember Foster's?
I do. Those fleck trousers, they were Farrah's, weren't they? Do you remember Farrah's?
Were they Farrah's? Yeah, but I remember you could get away with wearing them at school because they were just borderline acceptable for school uniform. And you wore your tie in a very thin tie as well.
Yeah, you tied it backwards, didn't you?
We were young boys back then, Max. I mean, I was 13. You were about 37, weren't you? I remember watching Live Aid. It was Live Aid 1985, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember this, but TV was mono back then. But the big thing about Live Aid was they broadcast it on Radio 1 at the same time. So you were able to listen to it in stereo. Yeah. So I set the living room up with the hi-fi, turned it up, and a load of mates came around. I think, we were 13. I just remember it was good times. We just had the music cranked up, and that was a great day. It was good music as well, 85, good films, good TV.
Yeah, as well as Live Aid, there was Wham's Careless Whisper, Madonna's Like a Virgin. It was the year of Roger Moore's last Bond in View to a Kill. He was looking a bit old at that point, wasn't he, when he was trying to run? EastEnders started on TV. The wreck of the Titanic was found, and England won the Ashes.
The music was great, actually, in 85, wasn't it? There was the Smiths, Tears for Fears, Simple Minds, Guns N' Roses. Who else was there?
Yeah, we're not really a music show, though. I don't know whether you've noticed. It tends to be about cars, this podcast.
When we run out of ideas, can we turn it into a music podcast? Because I think I know more about that than classic cars.
Yes, you said it, Princess. Let's talk about the cars from 1985.
Go on,
Ford had put out that third-generation Granada. Do you remember they'd softened the edges of the Mark II? The Ford Escort was the most popular car, and all the top 10 selling cars were either Fords, Vauxhalls, or, remember these, Austin Rovers. 1.8 million new cars were sold in 85, and it was also the year, don't forget, of the Sinclair C5 coming along and revolutionising personal transport.
It was on breakfast TV, wasn't it? It was the next big thing, and it was like the pathetic shots of somebody like in the gutter going up and down the drain
avoiding
holes.
the lorries.
They had
crushing past.
That's right. They had to put the flag on the back, didn't they? So you could actually see it. So there was a juggernaut was just about to go over the top of it. You could see absolute rubbish. But Granada Shimada, Max, because for a lot of us car fans, I think you're missing probably the most obvious car of 1985 from one of the biggest films of the year.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Well, we're going. We don't need roads.
Of course, it's the DeLorean, the aluminium DeLorean from Northern Ireland. It's cameoing Back to the Future, got everyone saying, what the hell is that? By the time Back to the Future came along and put the DeLorean in, the company had been bust for about 3 years. They made them from January 81 until December 82, but it got picked as that car. They were looking for something sort of futuristic, and it did look futuristic. It was designed by Giugiaro. Is that how you pronounce it, Giugiaro?
It is now, yeah. I don't know.
It was Italian designed and it looked cool and it looked futuristic. 9,000 made. I was looking at figures actually before we came on. It's claimed that around 6,500 are still on the roads, mainly in the States, but there's only 300 or so on UK roads. Now, back in 81, we're talking about cars and how much they cost. The sticker price for this was 18 grand. So that was more expensive than a Porsche 911. A film car replica now is sort of the 80 grand.
I think the whole thing was just a bit flawed, wasn't it?
It still looks good though, Max. I mean, look at that one on the screen. I mean, it's in that sort of brushed aluminium. There's nothing else quite like it. I think once you sort of open the door, it's very, very dated. But I mean, it still does look cool. You could see why it got picked for the film. But if you've got 50 grand, you fancy DeLorean, they are about. There's some on Car and Classic if you want to go and have a look. But we're doing this feature talking about what cars you could buy back then, how much they were 40 years ago, what were the bargains, what things were expensive then, or what was sort of quite cheap and has gone up in value in terms of things. I mean, what can we throw up? We've got like a sort of iconic car that we can talk about.
Okay, yeah, icon number one. Let's start with the first generation BMW M5, the E28 that started the legend of the M5, 3.5 litres straight six, epic handling. Probably my favourite M5 apart from maybe the E39, but I can't quite decide. So that cost new $31,295 in 1985. Adjust that for inflation, that's 96,000. So a new one's about 105,000. So it's about the same, actually, isn't it?
All right, yeah, I suppose so. It sounds a lot, but as you say, if you compare it to a new one, I suppose it's about the same. But these were, I mean, there's lots of cars like M5s now, whereas this back in the 80s was something special, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was something. It was really amazing, the original M5. I remember the road tests about it, loving it. I've got one on the screen now. I couldn't find one in the UK, actually. This is an 85 M5 that's in Italy. The problem with these M5s is that you can fake them quite easily because they looked a lot like the M535i. And you can only really tell by a couple of details. One of them is the VIN number. Now, there's 100 photos on this one. So I'm furiously cycling to the VIN number photo, which is photo number 82. And you can see on the VIN number, it starts with WBS. Have you got there yet?
I haven't got that long.
Come on.
I was hoping to be out of here in about 40 minutes.
Good luck with that. I'm on VIN numbers now. You might be here for 2 weeks. Anyway, the VIN number of the M5 is special.
I haven't got there yet.
82.
Yeah, here we go. Right.
Okay,
so
the VIN number on the M5s have to start with WBS. Otherwise, if it's a WBA, it's a 535i. So that's how you tell those original M5s. It's very important because lots of them are faked. And actually, the M5 is worth a lot more than the M535i.
Oh, God, this podcast used to be interesting. And now you're talking about VIN plates.
It's a WBS VIN M5. It's really interesting for the E28 collectors.
Can we talk about Tears for Fears again?
No, let's not.
Guns N' Roses. I mean, they look great, these 5 Series BMWs.
They're cracking, aren't they? Absolutely amazing.
You're right in saying it doesn't look like a sporty beast, apart from a couple of badges and a VIN plate. But yeah, I mean, they have dated well, but it's a sleeper car, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, but, unlike the current M5s, which look awful. And they're also, the current M5 is a hybrid, isn't it? It's got a 22 kilowatt hour battery, and that weighs nearly 2.5 tons. Well, this original one was 1,400 kilograms, I think. I mean, such a great car. Lovely to drive, really smooth. And you could get the tail out whatever you wanted. It was just fantastic.
So if you didn't have M5 money, you're going a bit sort of smaller pocket rocket. What about a Renault 5 GT Turbo? What do you know about those?
Top of the range of the Renault 5s, 1.4 litre, little fizzy turbo, about 110, 115 brake horsepower. I mean, wafer thin build quality. It was built to a price, and you certainly knew about that. 0 to 60 in about 7 or 8 seconds and stuff. Have a look at one here. I've just found one. This is a 1988. I couldn't find a 1985. 19,500. Now, actually, that's not bad because when they were new, Renault 5s were, in 1985, 7,360. So they were cheap cars then.
Yeah, I've given you my opinions on these before. I think they're very boring.
I mean, again, because it was cheap, they were built to a price and they did fall apart a bit. But it was a great drive, a really fun car, Renault 5.
Let's go a bit more glam. We've got a Fezzer that we can talk about. What were they going for in the 80s?
Fezzer's a 328 by the time we got to 1985. That's a proper 1980s icon, isn't it? But it was looking a bit dated in 85, but it did chug on till 89, I think. A new 328 was £32,000, same as the M5, actually. 3.2 litre V8. The price of that after inflation was taken into account now would be about £100,000, so quite expensive. But if you look at what's the current V8 Ferrari for sale, the Roma, that's a 3.8 litre V8, that's £200,000. So pretty much Ferraris have doubled in 40 years.
Now, I like my Alphas. In 85, the Alfa Romeo 75 was the wedgie-shaped saloon. And the last rear-wheel drive Alfa until the current Giulia came out in 2015, so the really modern one. Some had twin-cam 4-cylinders, or you had that Busso V6. It went well, but pretty badly built. What was the joke with Alphas? You buy the engine, you get the rest chucked in for nothing. Back in 85, though, have a look at this one, red one. They've been knocking these out for like 11,000, 11,500, 11,649, I think was the list price. These days, that would be 35 grand. Now, actually, relatively, that's quite cheap, isn't it?
Yeah. What's that Giulia Quadrifoglio now these days? Oh, that's
so that's
£84,000 for it.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of dosh, isn't it? So what's that? Tripled? Yeah. I can't find an 85, but here's an 88 the Alfa Romeo, this red one I'm talking about.
Nice.
Do you get excited about that? Do you think?
I do. I like that kind of square shape of the 75s, because remember the Alfa Suds were kind of rounded and smooth. This was very angular, wasn't it? In a kind of very late 80s fashion. Had a kind of body kit, had the big alloy wheels, had big clover leaves. I like those 75s, but again, like a lot of the cars we talked about, they did used to fall apart as soon as you drove them out of the showroom.
Yeah, that's right. And usually the electrics are a bit dodgy as well. But if you fancy going back in time, Back to the Future with an Alfa at 75, this one's listing for about 13K. So it might be worth a look. What else have you got? I think got a bit more sort of everyman.
Yeah, remember the Talbot Arizona?
No.
Well, that's because they called it the Peugeot 309. They built it in Ryton in Coventry. It was unveiled in 85. And it was very, very cheap. For the lowly, wheezy 1.1 GE, it was £5,000, 5,145. But obviously the 1.9 GTI, which is what we would have wanted, came along at around 15,000. Still pretty cheap, because the new Peugeot 308s, they're all electric. They are around 30 grand. Here's a Peugeot 309 for sale. It's left-hand drive 1988. I couldn't find an 85 one. But that's still quite a good-looking car, isn't it? I do like those. No. Again, they're light. They drove really well. Again, build quality, not great. But what a great-looking and great driving car.
No, it's not a great-looking car. It's bloody awful. I learned to drive in one of these. I learned to drive not in a GTI. No, I learned in a 309. It was horrible.
They were pretty rubbishy. They were very, very disposable. I mean, you bought one, and within 3 or 4 years, it was kind of French tired. It fell apart.
You used to shut the doors a bit like the Renault 5s. They used to go, bing.
Yeah, that's right.
No, we didn't go. Yeah, there's bing. They had a little bit of reverb.
I think partly that's why they drove so well, because they were so light. Yeah. I mean, there was nothing to them, so they didn't fly, didn't they?
The 205 GTI was the car, wasn't it? That's what everybody wanted, because it was just a pocket rocket. So £5,000 for a 309. What was the average salary back in 85?
I've looked this up. I've done some research, and the average salary was 8,383. So actually, you could get a car for less than a year's salary, because finance wasn't so popular in 85, was it? It was more difficult to get, and the interest rates were a lot higher anyway. So yeah, they were pretty cheap. For example, I looked up a Metro. Now I've got 2 Metros here. The HL was 3,995, and the HLS was 4,296. So that's about 6 months' wages for a Metro, which is probably 5 months too much, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. Well, it was different, wasn't it, back in those days, because you didn't have finance, as you say. You either HP'd the car or you bought it outright. There was kind of no choice. And I think probably when finance came along, I think that's when prices started going up. What about, we were talking about Metros. What about the other end of the scale? What would a Roller be?
The Camargue, the really ugly Rolls-Royce Camargue, that was £29,000. And if you consider the average wage was £8,000, that's quite a lot, isn't it? 8, 16, 24, 30. So it's nearly 4 times the average wage. So that's a lot of money for a Roller that was ugly as that. Other things, I mean, a basic Ford Escort, that was about £3,500. Vauxhall Nova was about £4,000 for the 1.2. That Granada I was talking about, that was 8,500. So really, actually, they seem to be a bit cheaper than they are now, I think.
Vauxhall Cavalier was about £7,000. And actually, we started talking about the Back to the Future one that went to 88 miles an hour. In my mate Liam's Cavalier, his mum and dad's Cavalier, we definitely did more than 88 on a regular basis.
You know why, don't you? Because what's the fastest car in the world?
Go on.
Your mum and dad's. Now, we've been talking for a bit too long, to be honest, so let's hear what you have to say about our last episode.
Yeah, last time we talked about our favourite YouTubers and YouTuber channels, and we asked you to rate some of yours.
350 Monroe on Insta says he likes Living with a Classic or The Late Break Show with Johnny Smith.
Jago Brett says Tyrrell's Classic Workshop is a good one and covers Lambos, Mercs and Ferraris. Another one he recommends is Kidston Productions. He says their Just Drive It videos are some of the best he's ever watched.
Ernest L on Facebook likes Salvage Rebuilds UK. Rob and Chris, I've not seen that one.
Have you not seen that? They're two guys who buy accident damaged cars and they fix them up and they document it. But they're in Kent and they're good characters. If you watch Salvage Rebuilds UK, Rob always says, "Nice, that's a really nice car." That.
Oh yes, I think I have seen that one. Yeah.
But Chris, who helps does the work with him, is really into classic cars actually. So if you go to their channel, not only is the channel good, but you'll find Chris goes to a lot of the classic car auctions and has a look round. So they're really good. I like them as well. Nice, really nice, Max.
Chicks and his Triumph Stag on Facebook asks, "Did I make it onto the list?" I can't remember.
Hold on.
Did you? No. Okay, sorry, you didn't. He makes YouTube videos with his red 1971 Mark I Stag. He's called DJ Chicks on YouTube. Go look him up. In terms of others, he says he rates Adam C., Max Wolf Media, and Church House Classics.
Yeah, I had a look at your videos, Chicks. Actually, they're really good. You do some nice ones with your stag. Can I come and have a go in your stag? I fancy a stag again, Max. I've got stag thing again.
Broken record about the stag. I think
I'm going to have to scratch the itch at some point because it's getting to me. I need to drive a stag. So if anybody's got
need to drive a stag. Please drive a stag just to get it over with. Just get on with it. It's going on.
I know.
This has been going on.
It's been going on 30
years. It was still in production when you started going on about how much you like the stag.
It's the thing, isn't it? It's a childhood thing. I sat in one in probably about 1985 when I was about 13, and I've kind of always wanted one. But Chicks has got a manual one. Can I come and have a go in yours, Chicks? And then I'd like to go in an automatic one as well. I fancy a slushy automatic, that sort of slushy V8. But
anyway. Please, if anybody's got a stag, just let him drive it for God's sake, and let's get this over with.
Then the next episode will be, do you want a stag? No, can we move on?
Don't like it.
No, I think I do. Moving on. More comments. We gave Manor Park Classics and the legend that is Paul Cowland a thumbs up on the last show. Paul got onto Instagram to say thanks, and he's ever the Pro Max. He's always working it. He's got a plug-in for his own channel, Cowland on Cars. Now, I'd not seen this, and it's actually really good. It's his car collection. He goes through stuff. So some good stuff on there. Give it a watch. Thanks for getting in touch, Paul. Thank you.
Now, since we spoke, we've been finding some more great YouTube stuff to watch. We might have to do this again, actually, as a feature. You sent me one, that 17-year-old driving an MGB and L plates, car traction Harley. That was pretty good.
Did you watch it?
No, I haven't watched it yet. I was just bluffing to see if you caught me out.
I sent Max this since we've been talking about YouTube and people suggesting stuff. We've started looking at some more stuff, and there was one that came up called Car Traction, and it's a 17-year-old kid, and as Max is saying, he's driving an MGB on L plates. I sent it to Max because I thought it was really good. It brought a tear to my eye. Actually, I've got kids about the same age, and I thought, well, why aren't you interested in my classic cars?
Because I've heard you go talk about the Triumph Stag. That's why it's not the Stag again, is it, Dad?
Yeah, boring. But no, he's really into his classic cars. He knows a lot of stuff, actually. Go and check him out. Car Traction. To be honest, Max, when you're on holiday, because I might book him because he seems quite clued up.
And interesting. Other stuff we talked about on the last show. I tried to tip the Mercedes R129 as the next big thing. Keith Gran Turismo agrees. He says in 1989, this was the poster car on his wall. Absolutely gorgeous and still is. And just a quick mention that my Mercedes SL Summer Special podcast is still out if you want a deep, detailed dive into the first 50 years of Mercedes SLs. Here's a health warning, though. If you don't like Mercedes model codes, I don't think you should listen, because it is quite detailed.
Yeah, I listen. I learned a lot, actually, listening to it. Mainly that you know a lot of boring stats.
I think you know that anyway, though.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking to a specialist who obviously knows his stuff, but you were trying to get in there, weren't you, with I know more than you.
Bruce and I had a good back and forward about who knows the best about model numbers, and I think he knows more about the engines, but I knew quite a bit about the trim because I'm quite sad and used to read all the brochures.
Yeah, no, it's a really good start. I mean, you go through all the models on there, so check that out. Scroll back on our episode list and listen to that. Max goes to see a specialist. That sounds like something else, doesn't it? He goes to see Mercedes specialist, I should say, and goes through all the SL things. And it's quite interesting because some of the cars that you would think, especially the early cars that you would think that, I want to have that, they're not necessarily the easiest to live with. And the sweet spot does seem to be maybe an obvious one, maybe not, depending on what your view is. But yeah, go and give it a listen. If you're really into your Mercedes, you'll really enjoy it. It's a good little listen.
Now, My Classic Wheels said, loving the show, guys. Keep up the good work. He's a Morris Minor driver. Ooh. Please don't go back and listen to our episodes about hating Morris Minors. He's a listener from Brisbane and is thinking of putting an aircon pump in his Minor or upgrading to a W126 Merc with aircon already installed. Upgrade to the Merc, it'll be so much easier.
No. I've seen it. I've seen this Morris Minor. It's beautiful. And it's, like I say, as I've always said, classic. Go and have a look at his Morris Minor. It's really good. My Classic Wheels, he is. I've been a bit of chat going on Spotify, Max, that I wasn't aware of. There's been talking behind our back. Some of the last few episodes, there's some stuff that we haven't seen actually until a couple of days ago. So sorry, we weren't ignoring you. Gary Summers is one of the comments on there. He was talking about a few episodes back when I was talking about should I put an MX-5 engine in my Sunbeam Alpine. And he was saying, well, no, the Classic had sufficient performance at the time, but like you were saying, it doesn't really make it an original car, and it kind of loses something by putting a replacement engine. We were also talking. Do you remember a few episodes back about how I wanted to crush the Rover P6?
Yes.
He said
still offended by that, to be honest.
I know you're still wrong, and he agrees. Actually,
he says I don't think so.
He says, Max, your support for the P6 is admirable.
Thank you.
But for me, it was the start of the jam sandwich police cars. Yeah. Crush those and the brown ones. Yeah, because they're horrible, the brown ones. It reminds me of the floating ride and also something that floats.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, good one, Gary. Yeah. If you, all the comments are really, really welcome. We love to see them. It's best bet is to put them on where we can see them, because we like to read them out in the show. We like to give you some credit for getting involved and that sort of stuff. So post it, put it in the comments on the posts on Facebook and Instagram when we put stuff up, because that's the easiest way we can see it. Sometimes we sort of miss direct messages and things like that, and sometimes we miss stuff on Spotify as well. So Facebook and Instagram, and if you want a reminder of how to find those, here's the info. Are you being serious?
Yeah, Morris Minor.
Oh, it's a classic. What's the matter with you?
It's just rubbish.
What?
Think they're right or think they're wrong? Shoot us a note on our socials and let us know. We're at the Tyre Kickers UK on Instagram and the Tyre Kickers on Facebook. You're listening to the Tyre Kickers with Max and Matt.
So that's how to get in touch. That's what you've been saying and doing. Next up, though, some auction action. And we've sent Max out on manoeuvres.
You're listening to the Tyre Kickers episode 33. Now, you may be able to hear I've left the Tyre Kickers World HQ to check out the Iconics Classic Car auction held in a large marquee-style tent here at Bicester Heritage. Now, 4 lots have caught my eye as potentially good value buys. A 1986 Mark II Golf GTI 16-valve, a 1959 Jag XK150 Coupe, a 2009 Honda S2000, and a 1993 Merc SL500 R129. So this is what I'll do. I'll walk round the cars and describe them with Gary Dunn from Iconics. And then after this preview, we'll go back to the studio and check out what prices the cars made when the hammer fell. So let's go and check out our 4 lots. Okay, we've moved into the tent to have a look at a 1986 Volkswagen Golf GTI Mark II. Now, this is a 16-valve 2-door, quite a rare car.
In interesting colour, the Monza Blue. Nice history with the car. Not sensible miles. And a good colourway. So, it's one that we think could do quite well.
And compared to the Golf GTI Mark 1s, which have been, quite expensive cars for quite some time, these Mark 2s are quite good value and really better cars.
We've had a number of 3-door and 5-door ones over the years that, by comparison to what Mark 1s can achieve, have looked such good value. The one that did nearly, 35,000 or whatever it was at the NEC has now maybe set the benchmark. They're not all going to get to that standard, but they're a great car in the day, weren't they? So
Yeah, 16 valves. That was the car to have, wasn't it? That little extra tiny red badge made all the difference.
Well, they were GTI, where it comes from, isn't it? Really, it was the Golfs and the Peugeots. That's the case. The GTI 3-door. What more could you want?
Right, back to the 50s, 1959 to be exact. A Jaguar XK150 3.4 SE fixed head coupe. Now, what caught my attention about this is it's guided between £35,000 and £40,000, but just such a lovely car.
I remember when we discussed this car pre-consignment, and it just looks such good value in the current climate. We know that how the market's moving with some of the Jaguars of the earlier era, but it just looked so well in the photographs when we discussed it, and it's turned up and it's everything you'd hope it could be.
It's got beautiful paintwork, it's got nice wire wheels, it's got the right kind of black interior. It all looks right, and you get an incredible driving car and that kind of 50s Jaguar experience with disc brakes for under 50,000.
I often look at cars of this era and you think, would you want to turn up at the pub in that? Would you be proud to take it to a show? Would you enjoy using it over a weekend? And it just looks a perfect example of the type for exactly that reason.
So from 1959 to 2009, this is a Honda S2000 Roadster. Now, I think these are fantastic cars. They're just so solid, they're quick, they're built well, they're kind of future classics. I know that term's overused a bit, but this one is in silver, all the right kind of numbers, single owner, 76,000 miles.
It is. It's one of the later last year models, so it's a chicane silver. Final year of production. Single ownership, 76,000 miles, lovely service history, just a great all-round car. I've agreed with you, the S2000s have always seemed to me like a future classic. Loved them from day one. Have advised a friend many years ago to go and buy one because I thought they were that good, and I still do. I just think they're great, and I think the market's starting to realise that. They're starting to get the attention.
And in terms of mileage, these Hondas can take the higher miles, isn't it? I mean, this is only 76,000 for a 2009, but there's nothing really to worry about as they go over 100,000?
I think as long as they're maintained, they've got that Honda reliability and peace of mind. As I said to your friend that I advised to buy one, I've got one still 140, 150,000 miles on it. As long as it's maintained well and looked after, what a great car.
And the right colours, this and the black interior, they can have a bit of a bright interior history, doesn't it? Sometimes they've got the red and things, and you think, oh, it's a bit much, but good black interior.
Not necessarily for everybody. Some might consider it boring. I think it's lovely, just with the black. I'm not necessarily a fan of the oxblood or the bright reds, whatever they are. But it's each to their own. I just think, we've sold a number of them recently. They seem to be at the point where they could just start to move up in the market. So fingers crossed.
So we've stepped outside for what I've been saying for a while, and Tyre Kickers listeners will be bored of this, but I think the next big thing, and I'm always wrong about this, is the Mercedes 500 SL R129. And this is a lovely one standing in front of us in, I think it's Almudine Red it's called.
Is. Absolutely, Almudine. It's a very desirable colour. The 129, as you say, with nice mileage, do seem to be getting a great appeal currently. There are lots of examples with serious high mileage on them. Lots of people have used them and done the mileage with them, but the nicely preserved ones with a nice low mileage seem to attract the attention. Again, having them in the right colour seems to have an appeal. There are various of the mark with the panoramic roof, with the designer colours, all of those things. Just a little away from the standard norm has an effect on their overall value. But I think this is a lovely example. Moved it myself yesterday into its spot, and it's a nice example.
Well, these SLs of this generation, you kind of sink into the seat because underneath it's effectively the S-Class of this era, which is beautifully built, and they will go on for big mileages. This one's got 68,000, red as we said, the mushroom interior. It's a 1993, so it's got the M119 V8. Guided between 12,000 and 15,000.
Yeah, I think, again, as I say, there are lots of higher mileage examples that are starting to look cheap as chips, for want of a better word. The 129's moved on, definitely in the last few years. We've offered more of them, of different engine derivations, but of 500s with nice mileage, you still attract a premium.
And when you think of Pagodas and then the R107s, this is the kind of next model, isn't it? But then it's a fraction of the price.
Well, I think we all know that the Pagodas moved on dramatically some years ago, and everyone jumped onto the 107s. Again, it's fair to say some of the 107s have moved forward, but it's that old adage. For ourselves in the auction world, we have lots of examples offered of better standards and of lesser standards. And I think as I always say with everything on auction, an exceptional car can do exceptionally well, but an average car really does show up as an average car when it comes to auction, because the market has such choice, certainly in the current climate.
Okay, so let's look at the results of your 4 picks there, Max. First up, the Golf GTI Mark II 2-door 16 valve. What did that go for?
That went for, it was guided 10 to 12. It went for £9,787. So I think that's very cheap. Bear in mind that there was a bit of a buzz about this Mark II because in a previous sale at the NEC, one had fetched over 30,000. So people were getting quite excited about this. Didn't make as much as that. Still a great modern classic. Mark II Golfs, particularly the 16 valve, absolutely the best of the best.
Now, you both liked the XK150, didn't you? The coupe. Did that sell? Did that get the money? You were sort of touting it as really good value.
Well, I think it is really good value because essentially, it's the 150 SE. So it had all the right bits. It has the slightly bigger carburetors. It's got 4-wheel disc brakes. Basically, it's a Series 1 E-Type, but just a slightly earlier version of it. But it didn't sell. The buy it now price on that is £38,000. Now, if you think what you're getting, a really good Jag coupe, which drives well, disc brakes, straight 6 engine, goes as well as a Series 1 E-Type, but it's about a third of the price.
And that's a real wow one to take to the pub. I think as your guest mentioned there, it's a great one to take to the pub and enjoy at shows and things like that. So yeah, so that's available if you fancy it. You talk often a bit of gibberish about future classics, but I think you were right with the Honda S2000s. That lovely notchy gearbox in that, and that is a future classic, I think. Did that one sell?
Yes, that was guided 12 to 15. That went for 11,475. So paintwork was a bit tired on that, but everything else is about right. Mileage is about right, about 70,000. I think, again, S2000s, great buy. If you go and drive one, drive it flat out and you'll love it.
Is that strong money for an S2000?
That's not bad, to be honest. I mean, the low mileage ones at the top of the market are going in the 20s, and the kind of boggo ones are going for sort of, 10 to 15. But this is a late one. It's a 2009 one. So it's got all the benefits of being a late one. That is a good price.
Right, a quick yes or no for you here. Just yes or no, I don't want anything else. Right, future classic R129, yes?
Yes.
Pick of the range, 500 SL.
Yes.
Everybody wants one.
Yes.
Did this one sell?
Well, no.
Oh, you're on trend.
No, it didn't. On trend. But I think that's because people hadn't listened to the previous podcast.
Really?
When everybody now realises, obviously now people would say that is the one to buy, isn't it?
Right,
so the guide price is 12 to 15, probably slightly high. The buy it now price is 13.5. You can still get these early, and this is an early R129. You can still get them slightly cheaper. But, for what you get for 13.5 grand, what a great car. V8, Merc build quality. I think somebody didn't quite realise in the audience it's the next big thing, but now they know.
Sorry, I've just got something in my throat. Nobody wants them.
Says the person who wants the Triumph Stag.
Well, I don't want an R129.
Well, you should do. It'd be much better than a Stag, honestly. It gives you all that kind of convertible-ness, but without the nonsense of the Stag, i.e. broken down on the side of the road, overheating.
Reliability, that's boring.
Now, here's a question. Has your advanced age, Matthew, affected your choice of classic cars?
Sorry. Maybe.
Maybe.
Why?
Yes, is the answer. Well, here's the thing. When I was 18 or 19, I drove a neighbour's Volvo P1800 ES. That's the estate version of Volvo's P1800 Coupe. Now, he gave me the keys and said, you'll love this. And I didn't. I thought it was boring because I was obsessed about going round roundabouts sideways in a Dolomite Sprint or doing a handbrake turn in a Mark I Golf.
He'd clearly never seen you driving then if he let you have a go in this thing. Well, did you ooh and ah about it?
Yeah, but it was a Volvo Coupe and I was kind of 18 or 19, so I just thought, it's a bit boring. But I've been dismissing them for years now because I thought they're dull. But as I'm not 18 anymore, does that matter? They're shooting up in value. They're a really pretty car. Are we now old enough to appreciate Simon Templar's company car?
Yeah, well, let's have a look at what a P1800 is. I saw one in Sainsbury's actually not so long ago in the car park, and I did do a double take. They are super, super stylish, aren't they? I mean, this is, if you probably know what one is, but if you don't, this was the Volvo 2-door coupe between 1961 and 72. Swoopy lines, curves. They're actually drawn by a boat designer, weren't they?
Yeah, some bloke called Pele Petterson, who I think he might be, according to Wikipedia, still alive, age 92. Now, Roger Moore drove the white one in the Saint TV series. It's also the highest mileage private vehicle, with a bloke in New York clocking 3.25 million miles in his. And it was initially built by the Brits in West Bromwich.
So yeah, they were knocking them out in West Bromwich until the Swedes realised that maybe West Bromwich wasn't building the best cars in the world, and they started switching production back to Gothenburg from 1963. Now that's when the P1800 became the 1800S. Now the S stands for, guess?
Sweden.
Exactly that, Sweden.
Then it was the 1800E for Einspritzung, which is fuel injection, when they added fuel injection. Yeah. Then finally the 1800ES for Einspritzung shooting brake. That was the estate with the all-glass boot that I drove. It's quite a nice-looking car, but again, a bit boring. Now in Sweden, the estate was nicknamed the Fish Van. In Switzerland, Snow White's Coffin, because of that all-glass tailgate. Great.
Yeah, they're not the prettiest ones, are they? I think that the actual classic ones are the ones that really make your head turn. I saw one in Sainsbury's car park, and it was an unusual spot, and it certainly had people stopping and looking at it, because I think as a classic car design, it's really, really good. There's a guy, Mercedes-Benz guy, I need to look his name up, but he's got a couple of nice Benzes. It's called Clive, and he's got a P1800S as well, I think. And it's a super, super stylish car. And I think, as you say, as an 18-year-old, it's probably a bit dull. I mean, Volvo was seen as dull and safe and all that sort of stuff. This was seen as a coupe. The Simon Templar Saint thing made it a bit more sexy, but I think it made it sexy for a demographic of kind of our age now. I'm 37. Max is 59, 37. By the way.
37 plus VAT.
But yeah, I think now, would you buy one now?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've said this before about a few other cars. If that car was wearing a Ferrari badge or an Alfa Romeo badge, people would be wetting themselves about it. But because it's a Volvo badge, it's never really had the cachet. Although I do get the sense now that people are starting to notice them, pick them up. The values are going up in them. Also, because it was designed by that boat designer, they have that very different look about them, which is kind of not a usual 60s sports car look. And so I'm starting to think, well, maybe I dismiss this unfairly, because actually it's a great looking car. Because it has that nautical influence, I think it's almost unique in its looks.
Yeah, and unlike an Alfa or Ferrari, you don't see many of them, because an Alfa Ferrari, you see a lot of them broken down, don't you? You get to appreciate the curves as you drive past them, but you don't see many of these around, the P1800s. But I think they're a stylish looking car. Let's throw one up on the screen and see what we think about it. This is in red, 1967 1800S for Sweden, we've learnt. This has got overdrive, UK right-hand drive car, 128,000 miles. We've talked about mileage on the last show. And I nearly went to a Donald Trump impression there. It's nasty mileage. No, it's not. It's not nasty.
I think Donald Trump's doing an impression of you. That's the problem.
Great mileage. Yeah, this one is 27,000. It's on mini lights. It's as
black
I say,
interior.
red.
This is one of those cars that's making me look at the P1800 again, thinking, get rid of the preconceptions that it's a bit slow, because I don't, who cares now? I think that is a really cool looking car. I think the market, interestingly, has picked up on them in the last 2 or 3 years, because they are starting to go up in value. They used to be quite cheap. That is, I'm just furiously looking at the price because I've closed the window by mistake. That is £26,995. So that's not cheap anymore, is it?
No, it's not. It's an interesting choice. I think, if you're looking for something slightly different, and you're looking for something that stands out, if it's not run of the mill, 27,000, it's not cheap, but at the same time,
it's not dissimilar to your Sunbeam, though, is it? It's roughly the same era. This probably wouldn't break down and leak oil as much as your Sunbeam. So I think actually this could be
doesn't break down. I keep telling you this.
It could be a good comparison for you. Would you drive that?
I'm going to send you a cease and desist from my lawyers, because you keep claiming my Sunbeam breakdown. Hey, listen, I took it out earlier, my Sunbeam.
Oh, right.
And I was bringing it back, and a peloton of mammals, middle-aged men in Lycra, came past and went, "Beautiful car, mate," which was quite a surprise, because I thought they were going to shout something abusive at me.
Yeah, like they're all going to slide on the oil that's coming from underneath it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Like an oil slick.
Watch out for the slick. Good luck, lads. But no, I think, like the Sunbeam Alpine, I think it's one of those cars that probably people wouldn't know what it is an 1800S. I think it's a good choice. I think probably 27 is probably quite hot on the money. I think you probably get a nice one. But like anything classic car that's all on condition, this one went, we're looking at the red one, underwent a significant resto back in 2016 to 2020. So it's a 4-year resto.
And it does look
imagine the bills.
Doesn't it? Imagine the bills. You won't be getting that back for 27 grand, will you? But it does look tip top, doesn't it? It looks absolutely on point. And I think this is quite an interesting point about these cars, is that it's all about the looks. And you can ignore the Volvo badge because we're not Volvo snobs. You are. And also we can ignore the fact it's not very quick because it doesn't really matter anymore. If we go back to the original point of this...
what was that?
I don't know.
When was that?
If we go back to the original point, that does your age affect your choice of classic car, then I think yes, because as I've got older, this is now coming into sort of my choices as a really good classic car, which it wouldn't have been, 20, 35 years ago.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Would you like a word that's original?
I'd like a good sit down, to be honest.
The Tyre Kickers, classic car chat with Max and Matt.
That's it. Time to have a lie down and a stiff drink as we've made it to the end of this episode.
But there's much more next time as we discuss the classic car gadgets that changed your life. Where were you when the electric window arrived?
Also, it's a return of See It, Want It as we lust after cars that we've stumbled across in the classifieds. That's next time. If you're outraged about anything we've said in this episode, get your red pen out and get in touch.
You can get in touch with Max and Matt via our socials. We're at the Tyre Kickers UK on Instagram and the Tyre Kickers on Facebook.
And if you've enjoyed this show, click on subscribe on your podcast app or service. It'll mean you'll get the new shows as soon as they come out.
For now, though, we're off to flick through the classifieds and hope and dream.
See you next time on the Tyre Kickers. Bye.
Bye. Lovely.
Glad I'm not editing it.
I know.
I thought I was all right.
Did you? Why did you think
No,
that?
I didn't.